Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So you guys watched the video already on Pythagorean Theorem. I just want to go over a couple problems from the Go Formative today to make sure that you guys understand everything that you're doing. So what you guys learned from the video that we watched is that there's this thing called Pythagorean Theorem. And what that means is that we're always dealing with a right triangle, so something that has a right angle of 90 degrees. What you guys should know is that right across from the right angle, so directly across from it, that right here, I'm going to highlight it in yellow and orange, is always going to be the longest side of the triangle. And the longest side of the triangle is what we're going to call a new vocab word, the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always going to be labeled with the letter C, and the other sides, it doesn't matter what order, are going to be A and B. Using those three values, A, B, and C, we can use the Pythagorean theorem, which is this easy formula right here, to figure out any missing side. So moving on to number 1 on your Go Formative, you should have your Go Formative out right here and ready to go so that you can follow along as we go over the answers. So number 1 right here, I have a normal right triangle. You want to copy this down probably on some notebook paper. I want to draw my right angle right here, and right across from it is going to be the letter C. We know that the letter C means the hypotenuse, and we know that the hypotenuse means the longest side. You can clearly see right here that C is the longest side. So next we're going to label A and B. Now it doesn't matter which one you label A and which one B. I'm going to do A and B like this, but if you wanted to, you could do B and A. It doesn't matter. So next, I'm going to use this formula that we learned, A squared plus B squared equals C squared, and just plug in my numbers. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Well, I know A is going to be 6, and I tag along a square. Drop the plus sign. I know B is going to be 3, and I add the square. Drop down the equal sign. And lastly, I do not know what C is, so I keep it as C squared. If you open up your calculator, and I have my Desmos calculator right here, I can plug in these values. So I have 6 squared, 6, you type it in to the power of 2, plus 3 to the power of 2 equals. And that equals 45 on the left side. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 45. All of that equals 45. And on the right side, I still have C squared. Now you guys remember, in order to undo a square, I have to take the square root. So I can do that to both sides. These cancel, and I'm left with my C value by itself. And I can use my calculator to find out what the square root of 45 is. I'm going to click this sign and hit 45. And right here, I get 6.71. 6.71. So my C value is 6.71. And that does make sense because if I look at the proportions of my triangle, if this is 6 and this is 3, it makes sense that this one is just slightly over 6, close to 7. When I go to put that into Go Formative, it says round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So originally I had 6.71. That's just going to round to 6.7. And that's what I'm going to enter in as my answer. That's it. All right, moving on. Another one I want to do with you is number 9. Number 9 is just slightly trickier than number 1 because it's not a perfectly upright right triangle. This one is slightly rotated. Now I can imagine it being normal by rotating it like this. If I rotate it, I can see that the right angle is just like that. However, to save some time, I don't need to rotate it. I just need to rotate it in my head. So I know that this is the right angle, and across from it is the letter C. That makes everything else A and B. So this is A and this is B. Like I said, it doesn't matter which one you label which. Using my formula, I'm just going to plug in the values. So my A value is 8. And I'm going to drop down the square, drop down a plus sign, and I'm going to drop down the equal sign as well. My other B value right here, I don't know. So I'm going to drop it down as B squared. And lastly, my C value, I know what it is. It's 25, and I'm going to drop down the square. Now I'm just going to solve. So to get my variable by itself, B, I got to get rid of this 8 squared. For me to do that, I subtract 8 squared on both sides. When I do that, I end up having B squared by itself equals 25 squared minus 8 squared. And now I can just use my calculator. So when I do that, I'm going to clear everything. 25 squared minus 8 squared, all in the calculator. That's going to equal 561. So on the corner right here, I'm going to put 561 on the right side. All of this is equal to B squared. And I know to undo a square, I got to do the square root. So on both sides, I'll take the square root. B's will cancel, and I'll have B by itself. Using the calculator, I will take the square root of 561, and that's going to equal 23.7. 23.7. So what this ends up being in my picture is that A is 8, C is 25, and my missing B value is going to be 23.7. That makes sense because it keeps C, or the hypotenuse, as the longest side. So under my go formative, number 9, I put 23.7. All right. This one right here, I'm not going to give you the answer. I just want you to know that you need to set up a picture if you have some scratch paper. So I'm always dealing with a right triangle. I like to draw mine just right side up. And then I go and label it A, B, and C. I'm going to fill in the information that I know. B is 3.5, C is 4.2, and now I'm solving for the missing A value. When I set that up using my formula, I should have A squared plus, and since I know what B is, 3.5 squared, and since I know what C is, 4.2 squared. Remember, to get A by itself, I need to move this over here through subtraction. So what that ends up looking like after I subtract it from both sides is A squared equals 4.2 squared minus 3.5 squared. And since we went over the last two problems, I'm going to let you guys pause the video and try to solve it from here by your own, or by yourself. All right, and our last one, moving on. This one I'm also not going to solve all the way with you guys, but I'm going to help you guys set it up. Just reading the problem, I want you guys to draw a picture on your paper about what you think might be represented by the scenario. All right, so this one's talking about a ladder leaning on a house with a base. So if it's leaning on a house, you can imagine the wall of your house being straight up and down. So something like that, a straight up and down house. You know there's always a ground to what you're working with. So that's going to be on the ground, flat, horizontal. And a ladder, if I imagine it, leaning against a house, would lean something like this. You can see what shape it forms, a right triangle, and that's the shape I want you guys to use. So if you imagine the shape looking like a right triangle like this, it says a ladder is leaning on the side of a house that's 10 meters high. So the house right here is going to be 10 meters high. It says that the base is 3 meters away from the house. So the base is going to be on the bottom. And then it's asking, how tall is the ladder? Well, if this is the ladder right here, I know my hypotenuse is the one that's missing. And what letter represents the hypotenuse? C. So we do not know C, but we do know A and we do know B. I want you guys to use the Pythagorean theorem to try to figure out this higher level word problem. Please reach out if you guys have any questions, and good luck with your work today.